3, 2, 1. Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show for you. Well, a deathly show for you with our guest, our Wayne Steiger, and my co-host, Lucky Stone. Thank you both for being here tonight. Wayne Steiger.
Happy Saturday.
Got that.
Hello, I think I just had an echo. I had to get rid of it. I heard myself coming and going, Robert.
Yes, I know. I heard it too. Oh, yes.
Well, the Doppler effect.
Talking about death. And last week we talked about death and why so much death. Because we're losing people in our soul tribe and we want you all to be prepared. And of course, I want to be prepared myself. It could happen anytime. I had this big realization when our friend and co-conspirator here, Delabore, passed over to the other side. And I realized my own immortality wasn't going to last forever here. So, I thought this would be a good subject to talk about. And we're going to do multiple shows on this. Last week, it was on, getting the death and how do you know you're dead and a few things like that. But today we've already crossed over now. Now we're dying and we're crossing over. What do we find? And that's what we're here to find out. So, Wayne, a lot of questions for you tonight. By
the way, thank you for having me on, brother. It's good to be there. Good to see you, Lucky. How are you all?
Oh, absolutely great.
Excellent.
Yeah. As long as my internet holds out, I'm fantastic.
Great.
It will. Think positive.
Lucky, you chime in anytime you want. But Wayne, we're going to start out with you. And the last time I wrote a transition paper on what it would be like dying. And this week we're going to ask you, what would life appear to be like on the other side? What's your idea of it?
Well, it's changed as you spend more time on this planet, and I've surpassed the 25,000 day mark. I was heavily influenced by my religion. That was the whole point of the religion, is that death was an eventuality, cannot be escaped. The Bible is full of passages, meanings on death, because death is the curse. God cursed us with death. And so we have this fear because we don't have the memory. And so it's really predicated on, and for the longest time, it was much like, well, you had to have Jesus, to cover the sin, and that, he paid the price for the judgment. And if your name's written in the book, well, you're going to go to this place called heaven. The Apostle Paul said it has 7 levels to it. And if you read the book of Revelation, it is an actual city, 1,500 miles wide, high, etc. So that was my view of death. As I have walked further along and began to question my own faith because of the evidence, now I'm leaning to the fact that it's going to be what you think it's going to. If you're afraid of it, it's going to be a little of an adjustment. If you're not, if you embrace it, it seems the transition will be pretty much what you think about. I have a book over here, 2,000 plus near-death experiences. And it's interesting because you have a group of people who believed in Jesus and that's what they saw. You have another group who did not, and they didn't see Jesus. But yet everyone experienced the same thing. So, yeah, for myself, I find it to be the place where I think that we truly are alive, because it's my philosophy. This is the death realm. We're experiencing death here. And because death is so seductive that's why most people are very much afraid of what death is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we punish ourselves while we're here in a way, because we think we're going to, we'll get punished even more on the other side because of that, the religion thing. You know what I'm saying? In that respect. Uh, Now, I read a lot from this book, and I was telling you earlier, it's called The Secret of Death. And it's a guy who had a medium, and he was investigating the dead, and he was getting, messages, and people would come, and these people came, and this guy came to him, and he said pretty much the same thing you said. He said, the God I had created in my own image was a God of wrath, a terrible judge, one without mercy, one to dread and fear, and the God I kept constantly before my eyes, my congregation. That was it the wonder then that I came to the end of my early journey, and I shall quail at the terrible prospect before I have been facing this judge. And and this is the spirit talk. He's saying I created, in my head, because of religion, I created this God who was so bad. But then when he crossed over, he says, I passed out of my body in fear and trembling and agony of my despair, and I woke at once to find that I've been making an awful mistake. I found life in the spirit world fair and beautiful, peaceful and comforting, differing in every respect from the heaven of which I had been or had any conception, and that I was home. There was a home ready for me, hosted by loved ones, relatives, friends, and acquaintances, and they came to welcome me. And so, even his thoughts there was like, yeah, religion taught me, just like you said, religion taught you this. And when you get over there, it might not be all that way.
Excuse me. I don't think it can't be that way. I mean, the whole construct of I was, heaven, hell. Well, if hell really does exist, it's an inside job. If Satan is this creature of pride, why would he take this God's reject? And you got to think about that. And that whole construct it's warped. We know a lot about hell, but we know very little about heaven. And when I was ordained as a minister, one of the things that you get into, because you have things where you can marry people or you can bury people, and death is that ultimate end. No one escapes alive out of here. And it was really a frightening thing. In fact, people, my lovely wife who was sick on the couch in there, two classes of people. Those who accept death, it seems that their transition is a peaceful one. But those who fear it, primarily through religious beliefs, in many cases, they have to give them drugs in order for the body to finally calm down to the point where the transition can take place.
Yeah. See, that's one thing I think they never teach us, especially in religion, of course, it's how to die. Yeah. I mean, really. I mean, coming in, there's people who I think you've talked about it before, say, okay, I'm going, and they lay down and they're dead, and then there's people, like you said, they have to literally be sedated to calm down enough to die.
Yeah. I mean, the Old Testament is, particularly in the Genesis time period, apparently to make the transition was not a big deal. I mean, it was known how it was done, and it was done very peacefully. I guess with modern man, we have a tendency to screw things up, and we really do. I think death should be one not to be afraid of, because that world you were just talking about, Robert, where you die and you had this God that was of judgment, wrath. That's what he says he is in the Old Testament. I don't know where this God of love is at. I haven't found that God. But when you think that death is surrounded by, you're going to go through this, and all of a sudden you're either going to be in the up or the down. I mean, again, it can't be that way. There are apparently billions and billions and billions of people over there. Now, I think that more the question becomes, so is it structured or non-structured? Meaning, if we all think about it, we've lost loved ones, close friends, and we feel their absence of their energy. And if you stop and think it from as a philosopher, I look at this, it has to have a system that is close to this. I heard from I'm trying to think of his name. In the 70s, he fell off a ladder and cracked his skull, his literally open, and he was a doctor, and he was in this place that he called heaven. And he said that it's divided up in spheres. You go to your own time period because that's where you fit in at.
Yes. Yeah.
And that it's very structured.
Yeah, that would make total sense. Because you'd really be out of place if they put you in with the cavemen. Yeah. I mean, really.
I get the Geico commercial in my head.
Yeah, exactly. You're just out of place in that respect. You would be a time traveler in some ways. It'd be like, oh, I'm just going to go backwards in time. Lucky, you're awful quiet there. You got any thoughts on that?
There's a lot to it. There's a lot to unpack.
I think he froze up.
I'm frozen again.
Yeah. I was wondering if he was frozen there or he was talking.
Yeah. Yeah. My internet is just driving me crazy. And I can see it coming up and down. So it's doesn't matter. It's out of my control.
Okay. I was wondering if you were quiet or you were your internet there, but that's okay. We understand now. No, it's all good. So what you're saying, Wayne, is that I'm thinking here, I got this wrote down as one of my questions. Was religion created to keep us from the truth? And is religion trying to cover something up? Do the high up people really know?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned it to you before we went live. So in the book of Revelation as well, it says that death will be destroyed. So if you buy that narrative, what was he born into? Has to be something that we have no idea about, because when this God cursed us with death, it brings up the whole idea. So was death created like that, and there's basically this gap? Because the promise is that you're going to go back to where that state of consciousness that Adam was at. And so that's interpretive as to what awaits us when we leave here. If we leave here, that's a good question, because the Bible, if you're Jewish, the promise is that you won't go to heaven. You're going to have a recreated body, and that you will be the rulers of this earth. And it's interesting because Paul says the same thing. Basically, it's the reactivation of your mortal body to come back here on earth. That's a trap. And it says that in the tribulation period of time, that death will flee man. So then what is death? Is it a spirit force? What is it? Because it separates us from the body, from the spirits, and that's what the word is, disincarnated spirits that don't have a body.
Yeah.
There must be a whole lot of us on the other side.
And there's probably more there than there is here. And in this book that I've been reading, every instance that they talk to somebody, they said, that they're on the other side, they come here, they go back there, and everything, life is wonderful. And, they have houses and they have land and they meet and they have buildings and they eat food. And, it goes on and on and on, everything from the way they dress, and to the physical body and how they conduct themselves, from eating and everything. I mean, it says here they were showing cottages or schools and workshops and different works in progress. They have homes resembling those you have on earth, yet far superior. Well, if you're a spirit and you pass over to the other side and you have a house over there that's superior, then is that the real world? Or is this the real world? Or is there technology involved in all of this somehow?
And brings to my point again that this is the death realm. I mean, I think that's what we're going to be talking about when we make the transition to the other side is, well, what was your experience? And isn't it odd when you were talking about the fact that there are shops, there's trades, there's occupations. When a person comes into this world, we all have certain gifts and talents. Hello, Jules. How are you doing, darling? And so if we have these inherent gifts, well, they have to follow us to whatever this other place is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a sculptor, but wow, go ahead.
Oh, in this one story, the guy says he was a cobbler and he was very poor. And, he cobbled shoes for people who barely could pay. And him and his mother lived in an apartment literally underground, in his cobble shop underground. They didn't have much to speak of. And eventually she died, and then he died. And when he died, he passed on over, and he was greeted by her, and she took him to this big, beautiful house. No more underground. And she said to him that their big dream was to have a garden, and they couldn't have a garden, where they lived. But when they got there, he planted a garden. He watered the flowers, and he says, I built a house for my mother, across the street or something, and, et cetera, et cetera. But I only grew flowers. I didn't need to grow food, because all I had to do was think of food, and it appeared in front of me. And I thought, well, why are you growing flowers? Why are you doing all this work? How on the other side are you building a house? You get it when you say, I'm building a house over here. I'm thinking, well, you cutting down trees? You milling you having it shipped in? Is it just like over here? I mean, because if I wanted to build a house here, I'd call them up, they bring the stuff, I'd build a house and so forth and so on. I'd plant a garden out back, but the only thing I don't have is wish for the food, and it pops into my hand,
So odd, because, in paranormal investigations, that when a human spirit is occupying a house, haunting it seems to be a really big deal for spirits who seem to have an attachment for this realm to have a place that is theirs. There's the insane asylum there. Is that in Indiana or Ohio? Pennsylvania, excuse me. Where tens of thousands of people departed, and some not in a very good way. And the psychic energy in that particular building is off the charts. So, and it's something that I ponder. So death. All right. So it says, it's in my head, it says, death, where's thy sting? And that brings up that whole thing of this other realm. And it seems to be really tricky. The words of Jesus is, don't store your treasures here, but store them in heaven, where neither thief nor rust can come and steal them. And so you got to ask yourself, well, so this riches count on the other side? If you think that you have a big house, it's interesting because if you never had a house before, how would that be waiting for you? But then you have evidence that we have in the paranormal. I've got my SLS camera over there that, the spirits are out in the woods. There's something out there. So I don't think that's what draws me to the occult. There is a knowledge I get from the religious text, but it's heavily censored. I'll put it that way in a term. There's something about death that we're missing. And anyway.
Because and that's for sure, because we, like you said, you can see the spirits are out walking in the woods. Why are they walking in the woods?
Why did they need clothes? Well,
why
did they walk on floors? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Why don't they float through walls? Exactly.
Why is it that some manifest and others don't?
Yeah, and why do some cross over and some don't either? And I have one story here, and it talks about the captain of a ship, and his ship went down, and he was in the war of some sort. This was way back in the day, and he has these fears of Germany taking over. And he says after he crossed over, he died and passed on. He says, I have little to do with the spirit world. My thoughts, my attention, my time are fully occupied with the life I had to leave so suddenly. His ship sank and got mined or something. I have but little thought of anything but the trouble around the world of your world, my world, as I still call it. I am so much with it that I find it difficult to realize that I am in the spirit world. All my thoughts and fears are concerned with your world and the terrible state of affairs it's in. So here's a guy who dies, and he can't cross over to the other side because he's still worried about this world. Too much.
Wow. And as you were reading that, I was drawn to the videos people have taken there at Gettysburg. That they can still hear the cannon fire. They can actually see the Union soldiers that are manning the cannons. It goes into something I read a while back, that when a human soul is taken down in war, there's an intensity to that seems to hold. Like the captain was saying, he's more concerned about this world than the world that he's already in. I mean, that reminds me of fly paper. I mean, the fly is out here in the ethereal, but man, it's stuck to the material world, and it dies.
Yeah.
And I've had visions and I've had near-death experiences, and I got to tell you, Robert, from my perspective, none of them were frightening. All of them are actually very peaceful. It's just I read somewhere that death in its final moments is orgasmic, because it's the sudden release, and that's how I'm going to embrace it. I mean, you get at my age, at any age, but you realize that if I have another 5,000 days left on this planet, well, that would be extraordinarily good, I guess. But the reality is that, as Picard said, I have fewer days ahead of me than those behind me. And so I think about this often. I meditate. I walk outside, and but I see it now as a release. I mean, and it's almost kind of a joyous anticipation, if that sounds normal.
Yeah, it does. Well, it all depends on your outlook of it. I mean, if you're looking forward to it, or you're happy with it, and then there's some people who don't want to go. They go kicking and screaming, and they don't want to leave. They want to stay. They got reason to stay, and they're going kicking and screaming out this
Well,
world.
and listen, there's some truth to that, Robert. I
Hmm.
mean, Lynn just recently had a patient. I mean, it was not a happy transition for this woman. As Lynn said, it's for the family, it was gut wrenching because she fought this thing all the way to the end, and it showed up in her physical body. And I told her, I said, hon, I have no idea what that spirit was going through. I mean, there was something that was unusual in that fact that they have this struggle.
Wow. See, it just makes you wonder, why? Why aren't they ready to go? Maybe that's the part they always talk about, the attachments here on Earth. You got to let all that go.
Fear.
The fear of going. Like that.
You're spot on there, Lucky.
Fear.
Yeah. Like that one guy said in here. I feared going, and my body trembled. Because I was so afraid to go. Pass on and go to the other side. But it was nothing. When I got there was nothing like it. It was totally different. And they said that. The one guy was saying in there that instead of going to hell, the people that are bad, until they can, embrace things, or maybe cross over and realize what's going on, they look different. They have a cloud over them. They are not beautiful and shiny. They have a cloud. He kept saying that they're ugly, and that was his words. Kind of, they're ugly, and they have a cloud over them. But they have people that come to you and work on you to get you out of that cloud and become shiny again. And that was his comments about hell. There is no hell. There's just this transition part. If you're,
when my father passed, I was meditating, and it was real to me. But for a period of time, I was in a different, you can call it the dreamscape, you can call it what it is. But what I specifically was in, it was almost like a courtroom. And I could hear it said, do I have any charge against my father? And I said, no. And then immediately it's like I was back, on the couch where I was at. And it was interesting. I think that was real? Yeah, I really do. When my sister passed, I felt her presence almost to where I could smell that, all of us have a smell. And yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, for me, this is just my philosophy, how I live my life, because I have found when I came out of the coma, it was it was paramount for me to understand forgiveness. And I've learned that forgiveness, and I've been done wrong. We all have, but I don't carry it inside. I've learned now. Robert, I guess that you just look at things a little differently as the older you get. I mean, those things that were important to me 20 years ago, today I look at, I shake my head. Why was it so important?
Yeah. Yeah. The things we embrace that are so important, we hold so dear, especially even in life that we have now, things that I thought were so important when I was a kid, or when I was growing my teens and 20s, is that much important now? No, it's not. My tastes have changed. My outlook has changed. A lot of things about me have changed. And I imagine as I move on, and I'm learning now, and I'm getting wiser as I go, all that stuff is just not as important either. You know what I mean? And I'll be able to let go of that, because what I held dear is really, it'll pass too.
And I hold to that kind of that philosophy as well, is that The thing when I wake up in the morning and I say my favorite confession is that I will have long nigh fully satisfied, nothing missing, nothing broken. And when I'm fully satisfied, it'll be time for me to go.
Mm.
And, I think about our good friend, Brian. There's so much I would love to be talking to him about, but I have got to tell you, I sense so often that he's doing work on the other end. I think on the other end preparing the way for a lot of us when it is our time.
Yeah.
And your friend Albert, I mean, that was sudden. That it was very interesting that he came in on his birthday and he left on his birthday. I mean, reminded me of Mark Twain.
Yeah, he did too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was it true that Mark? I don't remember this, but I kind of heard that was it Mark Twain or no? That was Halley's Comet. He didn't come in.
That's Samuel Clemens.
Same thing. Yeah. Same
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. My memory's foggy, but I do remember a few things here too. But I thought that was it was so interesting that he, made the cycle trip or whatever. But anyway, needless to say,
he said that I came in on Halley's Comet and I'll go out on Halley's Comet.
Yes, he did, sir. Yes.
So then, if that's the way it is, then did he predict himself? Did he will himself to die then?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. You can will yourself to die.
Yeah.
Again, Lynn sees it all the time. Spouses that have been together for long periods of time, 30, 40, 50 years, when the one spouse dies, the other one can be in good health. But eventually it happens that that person will to die. They just give up. They stop eating. They start sleeping a lot. All of this, and you go, wow, there really is then this process of where I can control. If I'm fully ready to go, then we can go. And that doesn't seem to be so bad. I got to tell you, at my age, again, I don't fear it. I don't have a way to describe it, but I got a sense that it's going to be far out. I really do. I just got this. Anyway, but that's just me. I don't see this heaven and hell thing because it doesn't make sense. And what is the devil going to come up and say, hey, I deceived you? So that's what you do? Well, congratulations. No.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that's what religion's all about in a way, is to deceive you in some way, because that's the power they hold over a lot of people. In that respect of heaven and hell, if you have, that was one of my questions on my board here, heaven or hell, or none of the above. And I picked none of the above. I don't believe there's, from all the I listened to those near-death things where they went to the other side and they come back, and their videos, people, and those there's a thing on there, and I did a show on that once where there's people who write in about all their near-death experiences. The thing is that none of them said, I went over there and here's the devil with his pitchfork and he was shoving me down the tube, Have you heard those? I don't remember those.
And people really do believe that, and it's so conditioned. We're conditioned from young children, to fear the heaven and hell. Now I lay me down to sleep. And that whole ritual song, that rhyme that we teach kids, and it becomes instilled to us. And I'm going, why? Why would you? That is the worst type of cruelty, because you carry that with you all your life. I know. When I renounced Christianity, you have to fight a lot of these pillars. because if you don't, those preconceived ideas will carry over. And and what a messed up way to teach people. I don't know, but what do you do for the bad people? Well, I have my philosophy, and that is, who's defining bad?
Yeah.
Who's defining the sin? I mean, in the Apocrypha, Jesus said, "You have no sin." Well, now I'm totally confused,
So that's exactly it. If Jesus is saying you have no sin, and you got everybody else saying you're a sinner the day you're born.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. And how can my name? How can if God forgives me, then what am I going to be judged on? Because He shouldn't have any memory of it. In fact, in the book of Isaiah, that's exactly what it says. He said, "I will remember your sins no more. I'll wipe them out of my memory." And I taught all this week on AI. Doesn't that sound like a computer? He's going to delete the program.
Delete the program. And who knows? Maybe right now we're in the simulation, and the other side is the real place.
I think there's so much truth to that.
And
unplug me, man. Unplug me.
And even in this book here I was reading, it says that, every one of these guys he asked, about your sins and who's judging you. And every one of them says, "Oh, you judge yourself and you punish yourself, or you fix yourself. Nobody's coming over you and saying, I judge you to be, this or that or the other. You judge yourself." Every single one of the stories says the same thing. You judge yourself. That's the only way it could be true, because then if God judges you or somebody else judges you, then there should be a list of rules and regulations and punishments, or like a path. It should be a path to go on, kind of.
So here's the thing that got me free of judgment. So if I'm being judged, well, wait a minute. If you're judging me to a law or a commandment, that's you. That's not me. And if you're judging me because I didn't comply or adapt to this law, this commandment, then I'm really not me anymore. So how can you judge me? Because really what you're doing is that you're judging yourself. Because I'm me. I say tomato, you say tomato. So the judgment thing, when you spend enough time thinking on it, it's ridiculous. Now, I don't understand when people do bad things to other people. They say in a philosophy of Solomon's wisdom is that you have to get to that point to understand that there's really no right, no left, no good, no bad. There just is. And each person acts accordingly. And these are the things that they're a part of them. And I don't know. Some can say that there have been things that where other people have done things to other people that in the long term, there was more good that came out of that than bad. So who is and who's not?
Yeah. Well, because you can't do good without doing bad. And you can't do bad without doing good. It's just the way it is.
What's it saying in the movie Cowboys and Angels? Well, I've seen good men do bad things, and I've seen bad men do good things.
Yeah, I mean, either way you look at it, everything you do, good or bad, has some of the, it's the yin and the yang. I mean, put food on your table, you have to, kill the chicken. Poor chicken's going to die, so you can have chicken on the table to feed your family, which is going to be good for them. You see, bad and good.
And maybe in a certain Buddhistic way, maybe the chicken fulfilled its purpose for its existence.
Yeah, there you go.
Because in essence, the chicken will live in that who digests it. So
that's just true. Lucky, you've been listening patiently. Is there? What's your thoughts
I feel
on
bad
going
about this? Yeah, come on, Lucky, talk.
No, the internet's been really wonky.
It is. It's on my end as well.
So yeah, it's a lot. The thing is, passing over. There are so many different ways of passing over, and different. It's hard to get a definitive discussion because it's such a wide topic. I mean, I've talked to ghosts. It's a very interesting thing, and where they tend to stick around is memorials. I mean, it's just the weirdest thing, And why don't they pass? They just don't want to. That's another problem.
They don't want to.
They just don't want to, because some of them crave attention, and you have a memorial, and what's the most attention? You have this thing, and since they're separate from time, every bit of positivity that they want is fulfilled, so they're not going to go anywhere.
Well, you've talked to ghosts plenty. Now, what's your opinion? What do you expect to see on the other side?
Fire and brimstone. I've been really bad in my life. The things I've done. Honestly, I think my worst fear is that a copy of myself, and to talk about all the mistakes I've made. Because who knows about all your mistakes, whether you hide it or not, subconsciously, everything you've ever done. And imagine facing that person who knows your whole life because it's you, and you've got to answer it. So the accuser is yourself. I don't know. Yeah, that's my biggest fear.
When you shouldn't fear the fear there, because as Captain Kirk said, I'm going to quote a Captain Kirk. He says, "No, I don't want you to take away my fear. My fear is what makes me who I am. My mistakes, my judgments against myself. That's who makes me who I am, and I embrace that." And remember that one where they searched for something. What was it? And the guy was taking away Bones' fear, and he took away Spock's fear, and then he was going to take away Kirk's fear, and he says, "No, keep in mind, it makes me who I am." And that's true. I embrace everything, good, bad. If I do something bad, I embrace that, just as I do something good, because it makes me who I am. I mean, I wouldn't give any of it up. Why would I? I mean, I made a lot of mistakes too, but those were my mistakes to make, and made me a better person for it.
I am perfected through my imperfections.
Good. Yes, exactly.
And Lucky, I got to tell you, I used to have that thing, and you have to do that mirror therapy thing where I learned just to forgive myself. I mean, I have suffered many injustices and what have you. And what I found out, that before I could forgive them totally, I had to learn to forgive myself.
Uh-huh.
And we all learn from our mistakes, but their mistakes are only mistakes for us. Mm. And I think that's what is the saying that when every person passes over, they walk into the great abyss, and as they look within the abyss, that what they see will be their worst and deepest fear, and all I see is myself staring back.
Mm.
And so counter the religions is that it's really truly self-love, because how can I love a God or a creator if I loathe myself, if I find myself in my thinking to be superior or less? If that's how I leave this realm, I'm taking that baggage with me. Now, I don't know what it's like over there, but I got a sense if you're going to carry that kind of baggage over there, it's going to take you a while to work through it. Where others say, I don't need it. I'm a nudist. I've been there all my life. See ya. And, you walk on. And why are there no naked ghosts? I keep asking that. Why are there no naked ghosts? I just don't know that either. Is there a modesty rule over there or something? I mean, what? I mean, think about this.
That is my question too. That was on my list. Dress. How do you believe you're going to dress on the other side?
Well, if you're going with this logic, then I'm going to be manifested in the other side with bell bottoms and the pirate type shirt and I'm still trying to figure out why I need the clothes, but apparently it's important. So. And I don't want to be seen in some robe, so obviously I'd want to be seen in, one of my tailored suits, right? Mm. Because a woman loves a sharp dressed man.
That's right. Hey, there'd be a lot of women over there, I bet you.
I mean, what am I going to look like? Superfly? I mean, I'm thinking about this. A buddy of mine had back I was 18, and we had one of these good time vans, a custom van. It was called the Tunnel of Love, and we had a bumper sticker that we put on the back of it and said, "Don't laugh, your daughter may have been in here too." So, no. Is that what it's going to be like on the other side? I mean, I don't know.
Might be. According to this book, I highlighted this one. It says they ask for clothing worn in the spirit side. They said there's a full liberty of choice. Some people prefer a certain style of dress, others a robe in which to attire themselves, the color of which expresses their spiritual condition. Never thought of that, did you? Those who think more about the physical than the spiritual prefer to dress as well as when in the body, but after a time this desire passes and they discard the coarser garments of earth for the etherical robes of the progressing spirit. So maybe after you get there, you dress in that fancy suit and then realize, I want to be more spiritual. I mean, it's a changing of the a progression of your spirit then when you're on the other side, just like here. I mean, when I was a kid, we dressed in bell bottoms and the turtlenecks, and I was in style. And now, it's totally different. Turtlenecks are out. So, and bell bottoms have come back.
Well, you're following that line of logic on that. Every preacher wears a suit. I mean. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, I really want to know, Robert and Lucky. Here's my thing, and all right, I may be carnal in my thinking, but hey, that's how it is. When do we get to have sex?
Never thought of that one.
I mean, I have it on good authority. I've read it that sex, it happens over there.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work?
That's a really good. I mean, they have houses, they have buildings, they have get-togethers, they have gardens, they eat food.
They have cars. I want a flying car.
Yeah, yet they never talk about the sex part. So why wouldn't they? If they have all the other luxuries and, like they said, a house that's even better than the one on Earth. With so you're thinking, well, something's up with that.
Hey, listen, I know a lot of women who can't wait for the girls to get perky again, and guys that that can get the abs. I mean, surely you don't have old people that look like melted cheese. I mean, surely that's not what awaits us.
Hope not.
And I know it's completely, like people said, how can you be talking about death and then about having sex? Well, because we have, cases of spirit entities having sex with women here forcibly in some cases. So how does that happen? Then you really want to get weird about it. You go back all the way to the fallen angels, Genesis, 6, where they got these angels coming down, they're spirits, right? And they're having coitus with the ladies. Well, who taught them how to do that?
That's true. And Nina's got a good question. We didn't even ask here. We don't. Do we procreate over there? Do they procreate? Do spirits procreate? If they're having sex, what comes out of that?
Well, there would be one side of the argument that would say yes. Yeah, if you follow the reasoning with, all right, so the Nephilim came, they were the result of this, two species and yada, yada, yada. And when they died, they didn't die. They're in this realm, and they have been cursed because they have half of a human soul. And in fact, in the book of Enoch, if you remember when we covered that, is that God said that he has no judgment on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How the hell does that work? Yeah. And it means that you have spirits that are directly interacting with physical beings. Mm-hmm. All right. So is that the ethereal realm or not?
Yeah.
And if we have to go through that when we transition, maybe that's like Ghostland. I don't know. Maybe it's just that weird. But Robert, I can assure you this: when you pass over, just stop at my beach.
I will. I'm looking forward to it.
It's got a pier, and it's got a Ferris wheel, and make sure to stop by because the band is always playing. So
I know. When I go
to drink for free.
The Purple Planet, the path goes that way. As you go to the buildings this way, it goes that way.
And, because it becomes a question: can spirits get drunk?
It's a good question.
I mean, isn't that what hard liquor is spirits?
It did say that in this book too. It talked about that people, when they get over there, they tend to keep on with their old things that they do. They talk about how some people go over and they're still drinking, they're still eating meat, they're still doing all of these things for quite some time until finally maybe the lust of all of that goes away or something, or the fun of it. I don't know, but it just says that they continue on doing the same things that they did here.
Yeah, that's weird.
So how can you be in the other? How could you be in the other realm that's so spiritual and godly like, and then you still can do all of that? So is it, when they're saying here it's bad, you're a drinker, that's bad, you're doing ungodly things. Well, when I get over there, I'm going to be drunk.
Well, the Apostle Paul said, all things are permissible to me, not all things are profitable to me. So that would answer your question, that there is that thought that says you're free to do anything you want. And if that's the case, then if that would be free will, then how could there be a heaven or hell?
That's right.
That only works if there's no free will.
That's right. How little we understand.
I'm totally confused now. I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to be totally confused. No, I thought these things out many times, but yeah.
Lucky, you've talked to plenty of spirits. Have they given you any insight what's on the other side? What's to come? And why they're not there and they're here talking to you?
That's the thing. They don't know what's on the other side because they don't want to go there. They're here to experience whatever they're here. I think we're like a drug to some spirits, where our energy are either fear. Some of them feed off fear. Those are fun. Those are on TV a lot. And then the ones who feed off of compassion and praise and love, they love it. They feed off of it. So what's on the other side? I have no idea. But these spirits who feed off of energy, love, or fear, they don't want to go there. So I guess there's still love and fear over there, I guess.
So basically you're saying these spirits that are here, they're like succubuses or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's...
I would say parasites more than anything
else.
But I'm a biologist by nature, and so parasites can be good or bad. A parasite in your body can actually benefit you. We're full of them. The bacteria in our body help us break down our food. They're technically parasites, so they actually are parasites.
Well, remember the question,
symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember the question I asked you last week. is if somebody has him, and Wayne, you can answer on this exactly too. I know you didn't hear the question, but it was, did somebody or something set up this religion thing in place to keep us in fear so that we wouldn't cross over to the other side so that they could feed off of us on this side? You see what I mean? So all the ones that don't cross over, they're food. And how did they get food? By making people fear going to the other side. Is that possible?
Well, if you're consuming food, you're consuming something's energy.
Yeah, but if your energy doesn't cross over to that other side, you would be here for food.
I have run into many psychic vampires, and I mean, they're real. And they will drain you of your life energy. And so in and I don't think all human bodies are filled with human bodies or humans. So yeah, I think that's why this topic is so interesting, because if we can navigate and circumvent some of the so-called traps, does that give us a head start on the other side? I hope that's not the case, because I like the idea of the bridge that I saw, that there is literally this bridge that bridged the two realms. And there are buildings over there, but it's more in the what we would call a surreal landscape. It's influenced by what you think a lot. And so if my thoughts are above that, does that mean I don't have to go through those levels at others? Because I don't care to have a big house. I don't care to have a car and all these other things. It's like, so do we get the Willy Wonka ticket, please? I ate a lot of chocolate to get this ticket.
Well, as we wrap up our hour, we're going to be about 3 more minutes. So, Wayne, what do you got coming up? You're talking about robots now, and
synthetic, non-human life forms, and we're going to get into it because this will be a short week. We got Thanksgiving, but I'm telling you, the advances that the common person doesn't even realize is already here. And this is what makes our time so interesting, is that there is clear evidence that there's another life form emerging right before our eyes. And down the road, there's eventually going to be a conflict between this emergent life form and us.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, and as in that Ariel or the Alien Interview book, Ariel was a synthetic being with a spirit stuck inside it. Maybe that's what we're heading to. Who knows? Maybe that was our future selves.
Robert, I think you're spot on. And again, it's like, not to digress here, but really quickly, it's like, well, if God created a perfect body in Adam, then why did he have Abraham circumcise himself?
He wasn't so perfect now, was he?
Yeah. Well.
Or was it like a branding? Was it a brand, like being branded like a cattle?
Well, all I know is Abraham's servants, when they found out, they said, "Your mama," and I'll have to tell you the joke about St. Peter's off the air. It's rather funny, the zebra joke.
Okay, Lucky, what do you got going on this week? Is there esoteric tea on Friday night, or is you skipping that for Thanksgiving?
Is he frozen?
I think he's frozen.
I think he's frozen.
He was listening so intently. I was like,
I was going to go. He's really a good listener.
Yes, he's been frozen.
He is.
Oh well, that's all right. Well, I know he's got esoteric tea on Fridays. Go join him and Courtney from Stars of the Morning Light over there. And don't forget to join me and David Null on Tuesday for Native American Myths and Legends on Tuesday night. Seems to be our biggest draw of the week. So, hey, you know, it is what it is. Sorry, Lucky, you're frozen. I wish he'd come back. At least he's got a good smile on him. Like, he's really sorry.
He's very photogenic right now. Yeah, I can.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for coming on today and giving us your opinion of what goes on the other side as we continue this series on for another week, because next week we'll be doing how thankful we are for all the things that we had on this earth as we cross into the next on the other side, and we still be thankful for all that stuff. So
thank you, Robert. It has been a joy. Got to get you on my channel during the day.
I will. I'll have to come on maybe a Thursday or Friday. That's usually my days off. So as you know, I've been busy working on some projects. So
excellent. I see prosperity all over you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Remember, go out, do something nice for your neighbor. Yeah, somebody you don't even know, because it is coming Thanksgiving, and be thankful for things that you have. The roof over your head, the food on your table. Remember, always to be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love you all. Peace, everybody.